And finally, last but not least, Shannon Minter is Legal Director for the National Center for Lesbian Rights, one of the nation's leading advocacy organizations for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people. Also serves on the American Bar Association Commission on Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity, and holds a JD from the finest law school in America, the Cornell Law School, and an honorary degree from the City University of the New York School of Law. I say that because I'm hopelessly biased, but also inscrutably accurate.
Thank you very much for convening this hearing. You know, this is the first time that members of the transgender community have had a chance to talk with Congress so directly about our lives, and we very much appreciate that, and it's an honor to be here today with Colonel Shore and the other witnesses. The focus of my testimony is on the urgent need for a federal law to protect transgender workers. In addition to speaking to you today as an attorney who specializes in transgender legal issues, I'm also pleased to be able to speak to you as a transgender man. I was born female and transitioned from female to male several years ago. You know, some transgender people are fortunate to have support in the workplace. Very often, however, when a person discloses that they're transgender, or when the employer otherwise discovers the person's transgender status, learns of that status, that employee is very likely to face termination, harassment, or even violence. Just last year, for example, Steve Staunton had served as the city manager of Largo, Florida for 14 years. He was incredibly effective. He was very well respected in that position. He had just received a glowing evaluation. But literally, within days of discovering that Staunton was transgender, intended to transition from male to female, he was gone. The City Commission of Largo abruptly fired him and acknowledged that it was doing so because of his transgender status. Another case, small town in Vermont, hired an experienced law officer, police officer. Everything was going fine until a town official discovered on a website that the officer was transgender and was born female, had undergone sex reassignment many years earlier. That information was communicated to that officer's superiors, who then shamefully, deliberately embarked on a campaign to try and intimidate him into leaving his job, and even went so far as to endanger his physical safety by issuing him faulty security equipment. And he was driven from his job. And this discrimination came to light only because a former police chief disclosed what had happened to the Vermont Attorney General. Now, states and localities across the country are passing laws to address this type of discrimination. 12 states and the District of Columbia now have laws that protect transgender workers. Over 100 localities have also enacted local anti-discrimination laws. Many employers, both large and small, have voluntarily adopted policies that prohibit discrimination against their transgender workers, and those are very important advances. But we need more than a patchwork of state and local laws and employer policies. So the brutal reality is, in most places in this country, a transgender worker who's fired or harassed for being transgender has no legal protection. As a direct result, there are many people in the transgender community who are forced into chronic, persistent unemployment, poverty, and homelessness. Existing federal law does not prohibit workplace discrimination against transgender employees. That includes Title VII. As a logical matter, when a person is fired for changing his or her sex, a court should say that's sex discrimination, and it should be covered under Title VII. In practice, however, there is not a single federal court anywhere in the country that has held that Title VII prohibits discrimination against transgender workers because they are transgender. We need Congress to make clear that discrimination against transgender people because of their gender identity is against the law. Thank you for your leadership on this issue. You know, growing up in a small town in Texas, I literally could not have imagined this day. There are so many transgender people and our families all across the country waiting and hoping that you will take action to protect us. Thank you.